Good morning, everyone. This is live streaming from Washington, D.C. Love the dance of inner. This morning's talk is the last of 3 days retreat, but journey never ends. It begins and it continues. It continues beyond time and space. It may have ended at one plane, then it continues into another. It takes you into another dimension. There comes never a pause in the dance, in the inner balancing. It is the dance, what did I say? Love the dance of inner. Something like this you have never heard or imagined. How can it be a dance of the inner? We know the dance floor. Yes, your innerness. The vast empty space within begins the dance floor, where yin and yang, your masculine and the feminine energies, the Shiva and Shakti in you, dance to heart's content. It is like an osmosis where the energy flows from one to the other, separated by a semi-permeable membrane of your consciousness, flows from one to the other until an inner balancing is happened. In dance, the balancing is one of the most important aspects of dance. Dancing has 3 aspects. First, when the dance begins, slowly and slowly the dance steps begins the ascension. The ascension happens. The dancer moves slowly and slowly towards the peak. Even those who are sitting as a silent viewers, as you are moving towards the peak, the others begin to participate into that happening. So the dancer and the viewers reach to the peak. Crescendo comes. A great feeling arises. The dancer stays at the peak. This is the moment when you are merging in something that you have not known. A moment of bliss. Your breath holds the body still. It is just the beginning. Now, ascension has happened, one step. Second, the bliss, the state of harmony that dance creates at crescendo, at the peak, you are drowning in that. And the third step is the descent. It's like you are climbing up the hill. It is arduous. It takes a great effort on your part to begin the ascent to the peak. When you reach the peak, an ecstasy, a joy comes when you see the vast sky surrounding you. You spread your wings. You stay there. Rejoice the moment of being at the peak. Now descent begins. Continue your descent in dance and ecstasy as well. Hold nothing within. Else descent will not be smooth. The descent is more important than ascent. Because now, when the vehicle reaches the height, the peak of the mountain, and it begins its ascent, the driver moves his feet from the accelerator. No need to accelerate. Whatever the momentum has been gained in the process of ascent, it helps for the vehicle to move downwards. The only thing is the driver keeps his foot onto the brakes and controls the descent. When you are coming from a hilltop down, you have to carefully descend. And that's where most of the dancers have problem in the descent. Hold nothing within, else descent will not be smooth. Here most of the musicians and the dancers have problem in separating the two aspects. This is the dance of the inner. There is an inner space, a vast open sky. There the two energies, the masculine aspect and the feminine aspect. When the conception takes place, it is the merger of the two, the yin and yang, the Shiva and Shakti, the masculine and the feminine aspect. Half of you is contributed by your father and half by the mother. You have the two elements in you. The outer love must create an inner balance. This is the dimension beyond the known. You have known the outer dimension but not the inner. The moment the inner balancing happens, you move in a totally a different dimension, as if you have gotten the wings. The purpose of the life, which is considered, the world is considered as a wheel that goes on moving. It goes on moving without a break. But in the process, we go on repressing many things. When you reach the inner space and you are like a bird that has attained freedom and continues to fly. That moment, your nowness, the moment of now, when you are on top of the peak, you forget everything. This is the individual now. It becomes vast, like the cosmic now. And in that cosmic now, all the past, all the future are merging into one another. Nothing, just a vast, magnified, eternal now happens at that moment. The purpose of dance is to attain to that state. When Jalaluddin Rumi started whirling, he whirled for 35 hours. 35 hours he continued. People will come and see him dancing. The dancer was not there, simply the dance was happening. The balance was attained between the body, mind and spirit. People will go home, come back and watch like watching a show, and a show that is continuing a long time. For instance, the Bollywood award ceremonies. There are many preparations before, or the Hollywood awards. There is a red carpet. The artists are coming, being received, introducing themselves or getting introduced. Then they act. So you want to skip this. You go and attend your phone call and come back. You have your dinner, you have your tea and come back. You take a shower and come back, but still it is continuing. So Rumi continued. To you those aspects were boring, but Rumi continued. People will come, watch Rumi for 1 hour, 2 hours, gone back, come back. In that process of whirling, Rumi became aware of something that does not move. When you reach to the peak, the hilltop, there is no ascent, there is no descent, there is no thought imagine. Each one of you have some time or the other have reached to the hilltop actually, or in the process of inner ascension through love, you have reached to the moment where there is no thought, just merging in the vastness of the moment, merging in the ocean of ecstasy, the bliss, the joy, the innocent peak, the breeze surging all around, as if everything is left behind. You want this moment want it to remain forever. but its echo can remain in you. And after that, such a moment, such a dance, such a crescendo that you attain in dance, after that you cannot remain the same. Each time when the memory comes, you are thrown back into that state of bliss. When this happens within, when the inner energies yin and yang begin to dance in a unison, in a state of extreme bliss, something that happens that makes your life totally different. And for 35 hours, Rumi continued, imagine, we go for a whirling show, maybe of 1 hour or 2 hours, when the dancers are whirling. But Rumi, all alone, whirled for 35 hours. He became aware that there is something that does not move. The wheel moves, but the axle does not move. The grinding wheel moves, but it is settled on an axle, but that axle remains fixed. All movement happens around a fixed axle. If that axle is not there, the wheel cannot be fixed, wheel cannot attain momentum. Your car wheels, the wheels are fixed. There is something, and then when it gains momentum, the wheel begins to move and you gain momentum, the speed comes in, you continue. The moment you become aware that there is something that never changes, that remains fixed, after that the life does not remain the same. Maybe that you have come back from the peak. You have started the 3 aspects, the balance, the ascent, reaching the crescendo, merging in that vastness that you experience on top of the hill, and then the descent. The meditation, these 3 aspects happen. In dance, these 3 things happen. After that, if you have really been alive to that moment, you cannot have the life remaining the same. Something has changed. Something has changed in Rumi. He is vast like open sky. He has experienced the vastness within. Simultaneously, 2 things happen. When you are climbing, there is a tiredness. But when you reach the top of the hill, suddenly that tiredness vanishes. Because what you are seeing at the top of the hill, something magnanimous, something you have never imagined, something like déjà vu, it happens. Oh, wow. This exclamation comes naturally on your lips. Maybe this would have come on the lips of Rumi, but he did not understand English. I guess so. So an expression is there, and people saw that expression of inner joy on his face, all around him. It's like you are drowning in that, the joy that happens on top. On the hilltop, we do many things. Just remember how many things you did. When you reach to the vastness of the hilltop, those memories you bring back with you. Imagine what happens. You have just reached to the hilltop, a mountain peak covered with snow, a snow-capped mountain peak, and you are so much rejoiced. What would have happened if you have reached to that peak, that vastness within you, and there you have danced, featherless, no weight, no worries, just a dance of ecstasy. You bring back those memories. Whenever you scan through the pictures, the photo gallery, all that moment, what had happened at that time when you were at the peak, that joy flashes before your eyes. The vastness flashes before your eyes. The joy that you have experienced fills you once again with that joy. So when this happens, that the two energies, at that moment the two energies merge. You are no more an ordinary person. Everything vanishes, no name, no form, no shape, nothing. Just the snow-capped mountain where you are standing. No fear, just a joy. A cool breeze surges through your body, and the breeze, as it blows, whispers in your ears. The only music that happens at that time is the surging of the breeze through the... There is nothing to obstruct that. The breeze is not surging through the trees there, no trees there. No restriction, it just flows and fills you with its music. You remember this when you watch the pictures. When you are explaining something about those pictures to someone, or you are going through that photo gallery, naturally that memory comes to you. Now imagine what happens when you have experienced something like this deep within, a merger. You have reached the crescendo in love, within the peak within. And now at that peak you can remain forever. But the peak that you have climbed outside, you cannot remain there always. You can come and go. But the joy that you have experienced will remain in your memory for ever and ever. If you look into what had happened when you reached to the peak, after this session you can tell me, and I will add few more dimensions to that your experience. Through that take you to something beyond the peak, to a sunlit peak where the snow is glowing in the light of the sun. When this happens within, the life is transformed, and the purpose of whatsoever we do in our lives, through male-female relation, through love, is to attain to that inner balancing, the ascent within, reaching to the crescendo, to the top of the hill in the vastness of the inner sky, reaching to touch the stars, and then you descend. And those, they are not memories. They become part of your being. Any moment you can take anyone into that state. Through that experience of reaching to the top, staying there for whatever time you had stayed there and descent, you will rejoice sharing with someone. Whoever is watching those stills, your talk, your expression gives a new dimension to it. This the master adds to the seeker. The inner balance, the life moves in a totally different direction. You have attempted to climb the peak many times. Many times you have fallen in love and fallen out of love as well. So many times, so many romances. Our great investment is that each time you go to see the same film, we forget that we have seen it before. You would not like to go with someone who tells you what is going to happen next. If you do so, the person will say, "Hush, don't tell me, let me watch myself and enjoy." Otherwise, you will not go to see the movie. Only once is enough. You want to go again and again to see. But in life, you do not complete the work in one instance, or the first instance, or in one lifetime. Your real work goes on postponing, and you go on playing the same game again and again and remain childish. The great investment is that you should remember your whole past. Otherwise, you will feel yourself to be so much like an idiot that enjoying life will become impossible. The investment also includes forgetting that you have ever died. You forget that. It always somebody else died, but not you. You see every day, you hear every day that somebody has died, but you never hear that you have died. When you attain the fruition in love, something dies in you and only then something new is born out of you. What is born out of you is your joy, your ecstasy. This constant falling in love and falling out of love, entering in life and coming out of life, entering in death, coming out of death, is considered as a wheel. Remember the wheel of time, too swiftly it moves, goes on mopping as it rolls, goes on mopping as it rolls, no power can its fury ebb. It has been going and shall go forever without a break. The world, my friend, is fine a stage on which we come to act our part, then do the most. Then do the most, 'cause frigid claws of death may soon descend and seal your humble fate. 'Cause frigid claws of death may soon descend and seal your humble fate. Then you shan't have time to mend. You shan't have time to mend. This opportunity is given. How many years you have been waiting to go to that, to climb that mountain top, to reach the top and look at everything down at the valley from there. Is a totally a different kind of vision that you see from the top of the hill down at the valley. When you have experienced that, reaching to the top, the moment of ecstasy, the moment of merging in the sky, the life begins to move in a different direction. You look at everything differently. The relations, the movements, everything differently. Never miss the opportunity whenever it is given. The journey may have ended here, but it continues. You have ended the journey of visiting the mountain, but it is now a beginning of new journey, much deeper, much vaster, much blissful. You can continue to preserve this in your consciousness. When you preserve this in your consciousness, you move out of that. Your life has a different meaning, much clearer, vaster, blissful than everything that you do will fill you with joy, joy unspeakable, like a mute, like a dumb. You have tasted it, but you cannot explain this. If you are articulate enough, you can give the taste of that through your words, through your expressions, through your presence. Let this be the message now and forever. Only this much for this morning. Until we meet again, take care and let each moment be a moment of bliss.